It is Thursday evening. We have the combine going on. I know a lot of people nerd out on the combine. Although I personally am not big into it anymore. Maybe it's just because the 49ers don't have those early picks, but there's just not a lot that you're going to learn at the combine. It used to be like the 40-yard dash and vertical leap, and those are the best players. And then there's always some guy who comes out of nowhere and bamboozles everybody and runs a 4.28 and then gets drafted super high and ends up doing nothing in the NFL. So the combine for me, not that big of a deal, but it is happening. And the 49ers do have picks a little bit later in the draft. We can talk about that. We can talk about the cognitive tests, which have been a big deal this week. In fact, we're going to start out with that because I got my man Marco waiting backstage. So whatever is on your mind, it is your night to call in. Link is pinned to the top of the chat. So make sure you click on that early. That way you don't have to wait too long. And we're going to get to it next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. It's your boy Jesse. And as I said, it is open mic night, which means it's your night to call in, drop your take, whatever is on your mind. It's your night to sound off. The show is given back to you. Link is pinned to the top of the chat. But I'm going to go first to my man Marco, and we might talk for a minute. So bear with us. But he is the talk of the town this week. I mean, I don't know if y'all heard either myself or Grant or Stats Guerrera. Who else was talking about it? Larry Krueger. I talked about it on his show. But this S2 cognition test, what the hell's going on here? Matt Barrows of The Athletic wrote an article. And it's a little bit sketchy. So my man Marco went digging. Let me bring him on real quick. What's up, Marco? How you doing, man?
Bro, how's it going? Thanks for having me on, Jesse. Wait, you guys talked about this on the Kruger show?
Yeah. So I went on Krug's show last night after I went on with Grant, and he's like, "Well, it was just kind of an open forum. We didn't have an agenda. He's just like, hey, let's talk." And the first thing that he said was, "Hey, what's going on in 49er land? Like, what's the talk of the town with you?" And I was like, "Well, let me tell you." And so I brought it up first thing, and we just talked about it briefly, real briefly, but any chance I can give or have to give some shine on my guys, I always do it. And you know you're my guy, so I had to do it.
I appreciate that. So what did Kruger think? Because I know he's former scout and everything like that. So what are his thoughts and stuff like that? Because I know I watched you and Grant talk about it. You guys went back and forth. I've been talking to a couple other scouts that actually have mentioned stuff, and so pretty much what I got back is I actually know the score, and I text you the score.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to put it out there because it's going to sound like I got it from Brandon. Brandon will not tell me the score for some reason.
No, he won't. He contractually he cannot tell you the score, actually, because if it gets out there and it comes from him, they lose all their credibility. I mean, that's a part of their NFL contract, so he actually can't give it to you.
So I talked to a scout who's actually with was with a couple different teams. He gave me the score, and like I was asking, like, why do you think that like Matt Barrows wrote it that way? And essentially, it came out to sound like, honestly, Lamar. First thing he didn't even like mention it. He said Lamar Jackson. I said, what about Lamar Jackson? He goes, look how they're talking about him in the media. MVP quarterback. Why are they talking about him how they are? It's for a reason. He goes, you know what I'm saying? Joe Burrow got hyped up, though. He goes, Brock Purdy got hyped up. So I was just curious, what are your guys' thoughts on, and what was Krug's thoughts on that?
Yeah, Krug didn't give a lot live. We talked more about it backstage. He was willing to give a little bit more, but his eyebrows just kind of raised up at it. He actually didn't hear. He had no idea. He's like, you know, what's been going on, or what? He goes, what did you and Grant talk about? This was backstage. And I said, well, you know, we were talking about the cognitive test. It's like, oh, the one that Purdy scored really well on. I'm like, well, yeah, but we took it a different direction. And I explained everything to him, and he goes, oh, he's like, why would Matty B talk like that? Like, why would he do that? And so just more curiosity from why would Barros write it the way that he did? And I don't know. I mean, here's the thing about it. I don't know those guys personally. I've heard nothing but good things about Matt Barros.
Same.
So, and I've never met him. So I'm not going to say like this is a bad person or what have you. But I have a feeling that there is some sort of agenda, whether it's him or his editor or the Athletic or whoever, because they've had time now to resend it or just update the article and do whatever they want with it. But they haven't gone out there and even talked about it. In fact, they almost doubled down on the whole thing because they brought it up to, I forget who they brought it up to, but he wrote basically a secondary article on who he'd brought it up to and made it another big deal. And it's like, bro, the gig's up, man. We know what you're doing. Like we get it. Just
Well,
there's no reason to like keep this thing going. Just be real. It doesn't mean, Fish and Chips said, what did he say? Here we go. He's like, who cares? It's a test. It's all BS. Kind of.
it's not.
I don't
it's not a regular
care.
test, though.
Right. It's not a regular test. This is what people don't understand. But in Fish and Chips, thank you. I mean, I appreciate your comment. I think a lot of people feel the way that you do, to be real. But two things here. One, this test, and I'm going to reiterate this. I said this on Grant's show. There is not a single elite quarterback ever in the NFL that has taken this test that didn't also score elite on that test. So if you're an elite quarterback, you scored elite on this test. Period. There is no quarterback in this league that didn't score elite on that test and has also been elite in the NFL. So there's something to this test, for one. Two, it's less about the test itself and more about how it's being portrayed towards one quarterback in the locker room and not the other. And that's where the issue comes in. And, we can talk about why. I mean, everybody can come up with their own reasons, what have you. But that's the real issue at hand, is why do we have a main media source for the San Francisco 49ers who clearly easily can steer a big chunk of this fan base in one direction or the other, choosing to write an article in this manner? Why is that the case? That's not right. I mean, you got to give both sides of the story. Let people think for themselves. But if people, let's say people hate certain beat writers, they hate Grant Cohn, they don't pay attention to content creators like yourself or myself, and they only get one side of the story. They think that Trey Lance, well, I mean, he's not going to be any good. He doesn't have, the cognition to do so. He's not as smart as Purdy. This is just another thing. But the reality is that wasn't the case at all. That wasn't the case at all. And yes, I do know the score. You gave me the score. In fact, the funny thing is when that article was written before you talked to Brandon, you gave me the score. You knew what the answer was. You just wanted to get confirmation and you wanted to do it right live on your channel. So yeah, the score was very, very close, extremely close. So why even, I don't know, man. I just, there's clearly an agenda there. And the fact that they haven't gone back and amended it or changed it or done whatever, or even talked about it, that tells me you have a reason for doing what you're doing.
Well, I mean, Stats Guerrero, he'll be questioning Matt Barros tomorrow. I believe he's interviewing Matt Barros, and I'm pretty sure the way Stats is, I'm pretty sure he's going to ask him the tough questions and ask him questions like, why didn't you report it the way it was? Did you ask for this information? Why didn't you ask a follow-up question on certain things? So to me, I think it's interesting. I did see someone, Mike Crocker, in the chat. I think he did say that Brett Favre took this test and Brett Favre performed very low. I don't think Brett Favre took this test. And if he did, I'm pretty sure he tested elite, because based off what I know, the quarterbacks that take this test, it is not it's not a regular IQ test. It is not one of those tests. No. It is how you perform on the field based off of the post snap and how things move. So for example, the way it works for a safety, the moment the receiver starts running his route, how does he start backpedaling? How does he break? How does he diagnose things? Does he only diagnose one player at a time? Can he do the whole field as it's going? It's not just necessarily IQ. It's based on how you react when the play is actually happening. That's the biggest thing. But to go away from that, let's go in and talk about I wanted to ask you mainly because obviously people are going to talk about that throughout the show maybe. And it's just going to be a ongoing theme. So I wanted to ask you, what were your
Hold on.
thoughts?
Before you go, I got Roscoe backstage. Roscoe, do you want to come on with both of us? If you do, just hit the private chat and say yes. If not, then I'll bring you on alone. But I know you know Marco also, so if you want to come on also, let me know. But yeah, I know you hate him, right? Yeah. What were you gonna ask me? Go ahead.
So Ian Rappaport comes on, right? And I think I'm very curious to see what you say because Ian Rappaport goes like, oh, well, Brock Purdy, he's the guy for the 49ers, but, they're interested in Aaron Rodgers. And then he's like, so that's when Pat McAfee on the Pat McAfee show goes, oh, so you're saying he stands like, so you're saying Aaron Rodgers to the 49ers? He goes, well, I don't think that. I don't think that's happening. Then why the hell mention Aaron Rodgers? Right?
Right.
Now, I get that Aaron Rodgers is a big hot commodity, a big name, but he mentioned Brock Purdy. Now, I'm going to say it like this on to you and see what you think. Why the hell are we talking about Brock Purdy when he hasn't even gotten surgery yet? We don't, from what I've heard, they don't even know what he's getting, if he's getting Tommy John or not. So what are we doing? Now, hope he gets healthy. The thing is he's not an option for the 49ers until he gets surgery, to be honest. Based off what we've heard and what's going on, he is not an option. Do you think that the media is pushing a narrative for Brock Purdy and they're doing it way too soon? Or do you think this is actually legitimately Brock Purdy's team?
This, this is super interesting. We talked about this in Spaces the other day. My personal thought is if they were both healthy, and I've been saying this forever, that it would be really hard for Trey Lance to overcome what Brock Purdy did in actual games. However, I will say this also. Anybody who thinks that everybody in this organization is 100% lockstep on which quarterback to go with, I think would be naive, super naive. Absolutely. And I think it would be super naive to think that they were lockstep when it came to drafting Trey Lance. There were some people that wanted Mac. There were some people that wanted Trey. Okay. So that is still the same situation. Some people don't want Trey. Some people never wanted Trey. And so I think that there could be a piece of this that is coming from the 49ers, a big piece of this. However, I don't think it's coming from all of the 49ers. I don't think this is a consensus feeling that Trey is an afterthought. I think there are certain people within the 49ers that are getting their agenda out there through the media. And I think this happens with all teams. I think, and it doesn't mean that, oh my gosh, the front office is in shambles. Jesse's trying to say that they all hate each other. No, it's just a general disagreement on an important position. Huh?
They're divided. I'll say it, absolutely. They're divided. That front office is divided. Not gonna sugarcoat things, Jesse. I mean, we could see it. It's been happening for the past couple of years. It's divided. It's a divided front office, whether people like to see it or not. It's divided. So and that's from multiple people, by the way. They're divided.
Yeah. And again, how deep it runs, I mean, I don't know. But the bottom line is this. They are going to be split on the quarterback, just like they were during the draft. It's not going to change. I mean, that's not going to change until you see Trey Lance play. It's just not. And so we're going to see Trey Lance. We're going to see Trey Lance play this year. There's no doubt about that. At this point, whether it's one game, 4 games, the whole season, whatever, we're going to see Trey Lance play again. That's going to happen. And he's going to start the season because of this timing of this surgery. So we'll see. We'll see for how long it is.
And I think the crazy part is, Jesse, so what makes me convince myself and based on what I've learned from Brandon, Allie, from people I talk to, which are scouts, people around the 49ers, Trey Lance isn't giving up the job. And let me explain why. So we learned that the elite traits are there mentally, right? When the snap happens, he's elite. Same thing with Brock Purdy. Now, the big difference is Brock Purdy had 4 years of reps in college. Trey Lance didn't. Those are those reps. And Brandon Allie said it on the show. He goes, yeah, I think he could be a very successful quarterback because those reps are going to allow him to be able to start processing faster once he's picking up that game speed. We've seen it throughout every game he's played. We've seen the flashes. We've seen him get better in every game throughout the game, from game 1 to game 4 to game 3, 3 to 4. Like, we've seen the process. We've seen the progress. Yet people are blinded to the eye to say, well, he's lost in those games. He's lost. Yes, go ahead. You can say that. That's fine. A monsoon game, he lost. I'll admit it. He lost. Arizona Cardinals struggled a little bit. Absolutely. Houston Texans, his best game by far. The actual game where he wasn't hurt, and the actual game that Kyle Shanahan let him be a quarterback. He still ran the ball, but Kyle actually let him throw the ball like he wanted, and that's what you're going to get if you play Trey Lance, and I don't think he gives that job back. Do you think Kyle actually allows him to be a quarterback, or does he continue to run him? And that's the final question before you can bring other people on and let Roscoe's cook.
Yeah. Man, it's tough because what did his press conference, he called him a dual threat quarterback. And Kyle's also extremely stubborn, man. You know that. Kyle's almost the type that takes what everybody's saying is like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'll prove you wrong. I do think he's going to continue to run him. It's just about how he runs him. Is it going to be on meaningless downs up the middle? What does that look like? And that's where I hope the adjustment is made. I don't think anybody ever had an issue with running Trey Lance. It was the timing of it. It was the down and distance situations. It was goal line situations. That's kind of the way that we saw it. And then we knew that Trey Lance can scramble. And so he was going to run 3 or 4 times a game naturally just because he can scramble. And if he actually has good pocket presence. So if he's moving around in the pocket and knows, hey, I got to get out of here, he'll do it. And he's proven he can do that. So yeah, I think there are times to run him, but it's just the 13 times a game is extremely excessive. And I know that all those weren't designed runs, but that's where I have the issue. So hopefully he chooses better timing, better down and distance, better designs, and not just straight up the middle. But he's going to continue to run him. You know that as well as I do.
I hope. So this is what I hope. And this is my last comment, and then you could go to the next person. But I really hope if he ever calls any of those QB powers, those QB draws, that Trey Lance just hands it off. Hand it off. Oh, yeah. You want to call it? Guess what? I'm not going to read it how you want me to read it. I'm not running the ball. Let's run the damn offense that we run. Run your damn offense. The damn offense I ran in college, which is a very similar damn offense to what you run, Kyle. Stop being some, hey, I want to implement the Josh Allen stuff. I want to do what Nick Sirianni does with Jalen Hurts. That's not your offense, Kyle. Run your offense. Brock Purdy could play it. He did it in college. Stop acting like he can't.
That's what I don't understand is I thought he was drafted. That was the whole argument I made for Trey Lance was 39% under center, called his own audibles, called his own protections, verbose playbook. He fits Kyle's system. It was a pro style offense. And then they turned him into RG3. What? Why would you take a guy who played under center as much as he did and scored high on this cognitive test showing that he can turn the back to the defense and read the defense just fine once he does so, and turn him into a pistol quarterback? That's not who Trey Lance is. That's what didn't make any sense to me. So, Marco, I'm with you, brother.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Later. That was a great interview. Make sure you check that out over on Clutch Gene Sports. I'm going to bring my guy Chris on. Chris, you know what's funny, man, is so I got a buddy who I grew up with. His name is also Chris H. Really? And when I first saw it in the chat, I thought it was him because I talked to him today, and I hadn't talked to him in a long time. This was a childhood friend. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. He's in the chat. And then I saw the USC picture. I was like, nah, that's that's Roscoe.
Oh, that's how everybody kind of figures it out. Because Ted on this show, he was calling out my whole full government name, but he was like, "Oh, I figured." He was like, "Once I seen USC, I knew it was Chris." And the same, I think, and same for Steph, and it was one other person. But yeah, man. Hey, Marco was cooking. Was cooking. that was good. That was a great job, Jesse.
He killed that. And that night, that Spaces that you ran where he came in and Grant came in, Rich came in. I mean, the whole slew was in there. That was a good night. That was the night of the interview. That was a really, really good conversation as well.
Yeah, I thought everybody added. I mean, even Polo, like I thought everybody added good comments. It was definitely a very good space. I told Crocker, I was like, bruh, I told Crocker and I told Lance, I was like, man, y'all missed a good space because it was a lot of information being spread. It was a lot of information going around in there and a lot of good opinions and insights. So, yeah. But what's the topic on today, Jesse?
Man, it's whatever you want to talk about, whether you want to talk about free agency, you want to talk draft. Is there any USC guys we need to know about that are realistic?
Yeah. Yeah. Corner Mekhi Blackman. He's actually from the Bay Area. He went to college at San Mateo. Shout out to the Bulldogs. San Mateo, my junior college I used to go to. Yeah, Mekhi Blackman. He played at Colorado, transferred to USC this year. And listen, USC defense was god awful, doo doo and trash, but he was one of the bright spots. Him, Tulopu. Lord, I hope I didn't mess that up. But him and then our safety, Kalen Bullock, who almost Dabble. He almost was an All-American. Was he All-American? I can't remember. But yeah, so yeah, Mekhi Blackman, DB, definitely he's going to get picked, but anywhere from 4 to 6 or even 7. But he's a good one. He has sticky coverage, could be a little handsy, but he made a lot of plays for us.
I like it.
Tested him, and he was good. I wish.
Now, are these players that could be around 3rd roundish? Like realistic?
I said he's going to get drafted anywhere from 4 to 7.
Okay, 4 to 7. All right, I didn't
4 to 7. So that's one person. A guy that I think you've seen in the chat and maybe on Twitter I've talked about a lot. Now this guy doesn't go to USC, but Elias Ricks, I've been watching him since he was actually in high school. Since he was a sophomore in high school. My very first time seeing him play, he got a pick to the house versus Bishop Gorman. Elias Ricks entered into LSU, and I'm going to be honest with you. I thought he was better than Derek Stingley. A true freshman, and we're talking about Derek Stingley. I thought the true freshman was better than Derek Stingley. He has very good coverage. He's long and lengthy. I think he's like 6'1", maybe. I mean, I haven't seen. I mean, we'll find out his real measurements, but I'm pretty sure he's at least 6 or 6'1". He's got long arms. He's very technically sound. I don't know how fast he'll run or anything like that, but he would have been a first-round pick because his season got cut short at LSU, and then his season got he transferred to Bama, and he didn't play a lot until like the last maybe 4 or 5 games, but. I'm telling you, anybody out there, go watch his film, and y'all come back to me. Y'all come back and talk to me. He's a ball hawk too. He's a ball hawk. He's a playmaker. He's gonna get his hands on the ball. He's gonna get his picks. I'm gonna say this: in high school, his junior year, he had 3 pick sixes in 1 half.
Now, Elias Ricks is a name that I've been hearing, and I haven't dug into this draft class the way I normally would. Normally, the way I would do it is I used to have 2 tiers on the channel. You could pay $4.99 a month. I would do film breakdowns of these guys. But, man, I just fall in love with certain players, and they never end up being 49ers. And so it's like, man, this year I'm taking the year off from it. I'm just going to let it happen how it happens. And so I'm going to listen to other people. But that's a name I've heard a lot. So I got to imagine he's going to go earlier than 3rd, would you say?
So, well, first off, I'm gonna say the same thing happened to me last year. I just wasn't in the doing draft because I used to literally watch film on all the players. And I promise you, I'm not bragging. I hit on a lot of players, but I definitely got some wrong too. Like I will come out and say I was not a fan of Patrick Mahomes, and he made me look stupid. But overall, like I definitely watched a lot. I used to watch a lot of film on a lot of different players, and like you, was disappointed most of the time until the year they got Reuben Foster. That's when I was like, oh, y'all listen to me. But of course, we know how that turned out. It wasn't because of talent, character issues, and then Talanoa Hufanga. Now, I wasn't diving into the draft that year either, but I watched Talanoa since he was a freshman, so I was asking around like, where is he gonna go? Where is he gonna go? And when the Niners got him, I was super happy. But overall, bro, I'm not doing that either. I just watch players and throughout the year, and I'll put them on my list. So that's why I'm I gave you Elias Ricks. Now Mekhi Blackman is because I watch him at USC. But yeah, these are just players that I'm throwing out to you that I just watch.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, I know the Oregon guys. I'm big on Forsett, the center. I think he'd be really, really good. He's extremely. I mean, this kid is good. He can get to the next level. He can pull. He anchors well, and he's going to be a later round pick. 49ers could use a center, so that's a guy that I'd keep an eye out for. But yeah, I mean, I'm actually really big into quarterbacks. So if the 49ers were in the quarterback market, I'd be breaking down these quarterbacks like crazy. That's when I really geek out, and I feel like I've done my best work on quarterbacks and predicting who's going to be good and who's not, going back to like the Josh Allen draft and then Herbert and all those other guys. So, those for me, the quarterback's where I really geek out. But the 49ers aren't going to get it. I mean, if they get a quarterback, it'll be a later round, and we'll see how that plays out. But
yeah, and I'll say this: there's another guy named Keyshawn Boutte. He played at LSU. He's a receiver. Balled out his first 2 years, freshman, sophomore year. He had a total of 14 touchdowns, over 1,500 yards receiving. For I don't know for what reason, things didn't work out this year. But again, he did have a new coach and Brian Kelly, which Brian Kelly is a little off his rocker sometimes. So I don't know what went wrong with him, but that's a kid that's now going to get drafted later in the draft. And I promise you, and I don't know if he has character concerns, because I know he has some issues up there. Yeah. But I promise you, when you're talking about the talent, that's another guy that could have been day one or even day two that may go day three. Keyshawn Boutte. I'm giving you these names, Jesse. He's only like 3 names I'm giving you. Go watch them and let me know what you think, because I mean, these are some ballers out here. I'm giving you, okay?
Got it. Hey, on your way out, answer this question for us. John B wants to know, who does everyone prefer if you could get one of these guys on the roster? Mariota, Heineke, Bridgewater, Brissett. Who are you taking? One.
You low-key sold me. I'm going to go Heineke. He's a better passer than Mariota. I do like Bridgewater, but I feel like Heineke is a little bit more mobile. I do love Brissett too, though. So
I like all these guys. It's really good.
Brissett leadership is. I'm gonna go either Brissett or Heineke. I'm sorry, John B. Which is crazy. That dude's name is John B. because I'm watching a show called Outer Banks, and the lead character name is John B. But but I would say out of the 4, I'm gonna give you 2. I'm sorry, John B. I can't just pick one. I'm one of the most indecisive people you'll ever meet. So I'm going Heineke and Brissett. And I'll end with that.
Fair enough. All right, thanks, Chris. We'll talk to him.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Later. Yeah, for me, Heineke's the one, man. Again, I know 49er fans hate to hear this, but I'm going to say it again. Heineke in this offense, he's going to look a lot like Brock Purdy. It's going to look very similar. I mean, y'all might fall in love with Heineke if he was in this offense. So, all right, Niner gang, we're coming to you. And then Mr. Blue Magic, we're coming to you afterwards. What's up, Niner gang?
What's going on, Jesse? How we doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, brother. How you doing?
Man, I'm just traveling back from work, man. I got you on the Bluetooth, being safe,
I feel it. I can't even see you, so it's like super dark wherever you're at. I figured you might be on the move.
I'm in the Yeah, I'm on the move, but I'm gonna get back to this quarterback topic because it's like on my mind and I can't get it off my mind.
It's on everybody's
think Trey-
mind.
I think honestly, bro, I don't think Trey Lance is gonna get his shot. I think the Niners are done sold on Brock. They did it with Jimmy, and I think they're doing it with Brock. And I think it's a mistake. Not saying Brock's not the answer, but we don't know, man. Just like we don't know with Trey. I mean, I honestly could say Brock was good, but as the season progressed, whether it was he was getting a little more intimidated by what was happening or defenses were figuring him out. But I think we can all agree that his ceiling isn't much more higher than what he was already playing at. Okay. Only thing he did a little bit better than Jimmy was, he could read the field better and he was a little bit more mobile. But I don't think that's enough to get past the Patrick Mahomes. It's not necessarily that they say, oh, we're not playing Patrick Mahomes. No, we are. Okay. Because Patrick Mahomes is going to put up 40 points every game when it counts. If we can't do that, what's the point of competing? In these 2 years, 3 years, we had Trey. They freaking accomplished nothing. It doesn't matter how many playoff games you win because the ultimate goal is that one game, the Super Bowl. So they just need to let Trey go because they're not going to play him. They're going to ruin the poor kid. Dude, I did backflips dang near off my bed, man, when they drafted him. I mean, I was excited. I did not want Mac Jones. I want that dual threat mobile quarterback, but I don't want to see my quarterback running the ball more than my running backs. That just don't make sense.
Yeah, it's true.
So I don't know what to do with the quarterback. I'm kind of lost at it. I don't think Rodgers or something like that is as long as Kyle's involved, that's where the problem starts. So now that changes. I really don't know what they're going to do, but I don't see a Super Bowl in our future anytime soon.
Well, let's talk about the quarterback.
I'm good with that. I can take it.
I was going to say let's talk about the quarterback thing for a second. So you don't think Trey's going to get his chance. What if Brock Purdy can't play week 1? Do you think they go elsewhere, or do they go with Trey and he does finally get his chance? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think they're going to find a quarterback this offseason, as John Lynch said, and that quarterback, because they have more experience, not necessarily because they're better, it's going to pacify Kyle more than what the long-term goal is. I feel Kyle, even though people think, Kyle has unlimited time with the San Francisco franchise, I don't believe that. I believe he's on the hot seat, and I believe he's desperation now. He's destroyed his.
Oh, Niner gang, I lost you. Dang. All right, let me answer Marco's question here. If they trade Trey, where do they send him? I mean, I think the teams that would realistically look into him, I think Indy would be one of them. Man, you give him Shane Steichen, I think that would be that'd be great for Trey Lance. I think Indy would be one of them, but they are also in the top 5, so chances are they would look a different direction and go with one of those other quarterbacks. They might even move up to 1. We'll see. You would be looking at Carolina, I think, is a realistic possibility. In Atlanta was going to take him at 4. So if that's the case, then why wouldn't they still be interested? So I think those 3 teams for sure would probably at least sniff around on Trey Lance, and where he ends up, I don't know, man, but I think those 3 teams would be interesting. People bring up the Jets. I don't think the Jets are a possibility. I mean, they could have drafted him, and that would look very weird if they didn't draft him and then they go and trade for him. So I don't think they're an actual possibility. We'll see. I think Titans might be a possibility as well. But yeah, those to me are probably the teams we're looking at. It sounds like the Saints are going to get Carr, which is pretty interesting. I mean, I think they just need to kind of tear it all down and restart over. Their salary cap's a mess and has been for years. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there, but all right, Mr. Blue Magic, I'm coming to you. Link is pinned to the top of the chat. Since I just lost the last caller, I got Mr. Blue Magic and then nobody else waiting. So if you want to call in, now would be your time. Otherwise, it's going to be a real short show. So we'll see. We'll see what Mr. Blue Magic's talking about. What's up, man?
Jesse, what's going on? First and foremost, I haven't been around in a minute. I've missed a whole bunch of call-ins on Grant page. You know, for those of y'all that follow Grant, y'all know I love him and Pop. But Jesse, you don't get enough credit as you deserve.
Thank you, man.
Your followers should be up tremendously by now. I found you through Grant, and you know, I found pretty much all of you through Grant. I loved the fact that you went on with Grant, and then you turned around and went on with Krug. That was my night. That was my night. I'm on the East Coast. I'm a night owl, so that set that did it all. As far as Trey Lance goes, this is the most toxic quarterback situation I've seen in NFL history.
Ever, right?
I've never seen anything like it, and I know there is a decent narrative of black quarterbacks, but this just feels deeper than that. Like I understand it's definitely there, but this feels so much deeper than that, because there have been, you know, black quarterbacks who have been able to have that chance to prove themselves. But for some reason, it's like there's maybe 3 players in that locker room that have any sort of bond or any sort of respect for Trey Lance. Now, don't get me wrong. Trey is young. Brock is young. Brock looked good. Brock looks like, and a lot of it is also with Trey Lance. And the same thing with the whole Jimmy thing. I seen Jimmy was not good for us before we gave him the contract.
Right.
We got caught up in the fact that we were losing for so long that we went on a nice little streak in garbage time. So yes, we were all, I don't care who you were just happy that for once, regardless if the season was over, hey, our 49ers are looking like something. I hate the way the media portrayed, and I know we shouldn't be talking about Jimmy. He's finally no longer with the team and no longer ever coming back. But I think it was extremely unfair, that whole quarterback wins thing, and how the media says, oh, well, look at the 49ers with Jimmy and without him. What they don't put out there is, look at the 49ers without Jimmy. None of the other quarterbacks, Mullins, Beathard, no one else had a fully healthy offense. When you look at the time that every other quarterback had, Debo was out, Kittle was out. Jimmy's the only quarterback besides Brock in his little run that had the full 49er offense, all the complementary players. So when you actually break it down, Jimmy wasn't the reason that we were winning. Jimmy, despite that, Kyle did everything to hide Jimmy. I don't know a quarterback ever that threw less than 10 passes and got credit for the win. Jimmy threw 8 completions in a playoff game, and he's held as the greatest thing since Joe Montana and Steve Young. I never understood it. And this locker room, as a 40, and I started watching football because of the 49ers, specifically because of Ronnie Lott. I was about 4 years old. Ronnie Lott hit a receiver, and I said, oh, Lord, he killed him. I like that guy. I'm rooting for them forever.
Yeah.
So I've watched, and I've went through the ups, the downs, and all of this, the caps, the kneeling, everything. The Alex Smiths when we could have drafted Aaron Rodgers, which a lot of people don't talk about that. We took Alex Smith over Aaron Rodgers. But once again, we know, trying to assess people from the draft is hit or miss. Is hit or miss. The same way people passed up, the same way Grant made the comparison to Travis Kelce being passed up. So, you never know what you're gonna get. You try to do your due diligence and hope for the best. But what the problem is, this locker room. This locker room is extremely divided. This whole Cabo thing, I don't care. You can't tell me this is a coincidence. Yes, Kyle goes every year, but you can't tell me that this select group of players who essentially run the team, that it was just a coincidence that they all came there. I've always loved Kittle. Kittle fell off. And I said it on Grant's show. I was screaming to trade Kittle and to trade Debo. And I love Debo. Debo has been the heart and soul of us. Kittle has been the mouth and the glory, and Kittle at his best is elite. I will never take that from him. Kittle at his best is elite. But until nothing's going to change until they get rid of Kyle. Nothing's going to change. It's either we're going to win while we have Kyle, or be mediocre, or nothing else is going to change. Because so long as Kyle is the head of this ship, the players, that select group of players is going to run the team.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree.
Juice I've never, and I, for the life of me, I can't wait for ESPN to do a 30 for 30 on this team, and people come out after they've retired and Trey comes out and finally spills the beans, because he's been, as much as the media praised Jimmy for being the professional and so forth and so on, which we see in this NFC Championship loss, that he wasn't a professional, as we seen when he had his own little space during training camp and he was out there playing street ball with a football, when he could have been helping Trey develop. Then he could have been helping him learn the players, learn his receivers, where they like the ball, how they like it, and so forth and so on. The way the offensive line, for as much as we've all seen the limitations in the offensive line, our offensive line wasn't actually the weakness that we thought it was going to be heading into last season. It actually performed way better than I expected. But even when it comes to the offensive line, I've never seen a quarterback hit the deck and have to pick himself up. You've seen Peyton Manning occasionally hit the floor. Tom Brady occasionally hit the floor, because these guys are cerebral, so they don't get hit often. But you will see receivers, you will see tight ends, you will see right tackles, right guards rush from wherever they're at to go help that man up. And anybody that saw that and didn't catch it, once it was put out there, how could you not look at that whole situation as being dysfunctional? I have two theories. Theory number one is Kyle never wanted Trey. And so even with the test coming out, he has to prove that Trey doesn't have it, and this is why I am not using him the way he should be used, and we're not putting trust in him, and why the players put out these little comments, because once again, we've had Nick Bosa say, "Oh, all we need is for him not to make a mistake," and we're fine, and not to make the big mistake, and Kittles and the juices coming out. We don't need a quarterback. We're great, and we haven't done anything but lose a Super Bowl and make it to a couple of NFC championships in a weak division. If you put a good team in the NFC, it's not hard to accomplish that. It's very simple. Kyle is not a developer of quarterbacks. So Trey shouldn't have been drafted. You should have given Kyle a younger Jimmy, because that's what he wants. A younger Jimmy, a younger Kirk Cousins. That's what he wants. He doesn't want a voice. And I believe, as soft-spoken as Trey comes off, I believe that he does have a voice. And I think we've seen it in the the interview,
Rich Eisen
surgery. Yes, the Rich Eisen interview.
Yeah,
You can see it, and I believe it finally hit him. Like, you know what? Y'all don't want me here anyway. The same thing with Jimmy. Jimmy's last year, he was like, your play suck, so forth and so. Jimmy became him. It's no, you know what? This organization is going to do what's best for them, so I'm going to be me now. And I believe that's the reason that Kyle didn't go after Brady. Brady's going to take control.
yeah.
I don't care about you. I don't care about your plays. I'm him. If I see that this isn't going to work, and that's another thing that bugs me out. Kyle, you want a quarterback that is cerebral, that can diagnose the defense and make adjustments, but you don't want your quarterbacks to do it. You want to do it. Hey, I already game planned. I know what they're going to do, so just run this. I don't care if you see that one of the greatest sack season havers is going to trash your backup tight end. Run the play. Don't adjust nothing. This is your read. This is what you do. This is your 7 steps. And that's it. Kyle doesn't want a leader. Kyle wants, because he already has his leaders. He has his Cabo clique. I don't need anybody else telling me what I'm doing wrong or how they think things should run. Somebody said it. Somebody super chatted it.
And hey, Mr. Blue Magic, last thought here. I got people piling up, all right? But you're cooking. That's why I let you go. I let you go because you're cooking. So give me your last thought.
My last thought is this. Until Kyle decides to get out of his way, we ain't going nowhere.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, listen, that was a great call. You and I could go back and forth for a little bit. I agree with a lot of what you said. There are some little things that I would disagree with, but I think the chat was definitely feeling it. We got a lot of flames. We got a lot of this man spitting. This man was on fire. So call in anytime, man. You always can call in here, Mr. Blue Magic. We'll talk soon, okay?
I'm definitely back, and I'll definitely see you on Grad's page and Cruz as well.
Perfect, man. Perfect. Thank you so much for the love. I appreciate it. That was good. I don't agree with everything he said, but he was cooking. I had to let him cook. So seems like a lot of you guys agree. You guys agree with it for sure. All right, here's the order. We're going Twin Empire. My guy Twin, best beard in the business. We're going Niners Sickness. What's up, Beto? And then we're going Mr. Mike Mosley. That is the order. Let's go. What's up, Twin?
What's cracking, my guy? How you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing great.
Hey, big up for the beard shout out, man.
Listen, it's flat out the best beard in the business. I don't know a better beard. I'm just being real. I don't know a better beard than yours. So keep rocking that thing.
For sure, man. Yeah, man. I was sitting back, my guy, just taking in the information that my guy was spilling over there. Mr. Blue Magic. As Jesse, you a man of the cloth a little bit. You already know a double-minded mind is unstable in all of his ways. Yes or no?
Yeah.
All right. So if you got so what we see here over the last several years You think there's been a lot of double-mindedness in the most important position in sports?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Now, nobody's going to sit here and tell me. I'm not saying that there can't be success. Even look, will there be success? Yes. But will there be champions? That's where we have seen it's a no. We've been probably the most talented team, or we have had one of the most talented rosters in the last 4 to 5 years, top to bottom.
Yeah.
So talent has not been the issue, but is that the most important position that we have continuously been up and down on and never necessarily been faithful. It's kind of ironic that we are the faithful, but haven't been faithful in the quarterback position. We've always been looking, keeping our eyes open. So we never necessarily set down any roots and had the ability to cultivate that position like it should be. And like my man was saying, I think it's a lot of it dealing with Kyle Shanahan and his inability to let go and not allow his ego to be the head of the snake. We seen, I think somebody, I don't know if it was you the other day, was talking about how many quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl that have been pretty much borderline Hall of Famers or Hall of Famers. Wasn't you
Yep.
just talking
Yeah.
about that not too long ago?
Yep.
And it's not just about the Hall of Fame. It's the cliche, or it's the mentality. It's the ability to know that this person, this quarterback who is a Hall of Famer, usually they can do things that supersedes the coach. They have this inability, this innate ability. It's like when we watch basketball. Sometimes you guys say 1-4 flat, ISO. All right, give it to my guy. It's fourth quarter, 3 minutes left to go. I'm gonna need you to cook. You know what I mean? I'm gonna need, hey coach, we ain't calling no plays. I can see the mismatch right here. Whether I'm gonna pick and roll, whether I'm just going to go in the short corner, I'm gonna work out posting up. It's just that I know that Imano, I am the best player on this field. And as a coach, you sit back there, you put your hands on your hip, and you become a spectator. You watch.
Yep.
We seen that with Joe Montana. It's the reason why you had the memorabilia behind you, because there was something special that we all saw, that in the most pressurized position or pressurized moment of the game, this guy was cooler than the fan. You know what I'm saying? He was just like, wow. Do you not know how many times we know us fans are like, we going back and forth, we scratching our head, we in panic mode, but this guy is just cool, you know what I mean? And so that gives the team, defense and offense, this ability to code and galvanize and play at this higher level, when you go against the higher competition. And that's the thing we see in the playoffs, that we can win off talent along with our roster. But like my man said earlier, once you begin to go to the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, your rosters are about even now. Everything is about, it's cutting, it's okay, we all about even every position until you get to that one position, you know what I mean? Because even then, the coaches are pretty much on par too. And another thing is Kyle Shanahan, he's a little more conservative than some of the coaches he met in the Super Bowl or in the NFC Championship game. There's no more time to be conservative. This is a time where you let out every play that you've drawn up since you was probably becoming a head coach. But we don't necessarily see that in Kyle Shanahan at times, or actually a lot of the times, you know what I mean? And so I think that this is a time that we really got to make a decision. And even though I'm a Trey guy, and I appreciate what Brock did, but I'm at the point now where the me being a Trey guy or not, it's like, hey man, Kyle, I just need you to pick somebody and say it with your chest. All the passive aggressiveness talking about, well, we just want him to get back healthy, hopefully he's ready for it. If you wait on him to be ready for the first game of the first, of this year, just say, hey, when Brock Purdy come back, we expect him to be back in September, maybe the second week of September, and that's our starting quarterback of San Francisco 49ers. Cool. You cut out all the noise. You cut out all this other negativity. You cut out the splitting and divide we had over the last 3 to 4 years. Like, we cut all that nonsense out. So I'm just looking forward to Kyle Shanahan saying it with his chest, making the decision so we can go ahead and get this thing rolling. And until then, I think the football guys will not allow us to have the opportunity to win 6. They will continue to say, if you're going to disrespect the most important position in the National Football League and in sports, I got something for y'all. Y'all always gonna have something to come in there and mess up everything.
Hey, I think you're spot on, Twin. I think that's exactly it. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. You got to commit to one, and you have to say it with your chest. You have to let No, you have to let the locker room know, and you
Hey,
have to allow them to prepare as such.
Hey, you around my same age. Remember that movie Jet Li, The
Oh, yeah.
One? Remember,
Yeah.
look, he said, look, there can only be one.
It's right. It's true. Listen, it's true. It's very true. There can only be one. You're right. You're right.
There can only
No
be
doubt.
one, baby. All right, my God.
I love it, man. Thanks, twin. It was good hearing from you, man.
No problem, man. Hold it down.
All right, later. He's right. I mean, they got to figure it out. You got to figure it. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter who it is. You got to go with one of them, and you got to invest in them. You have to invest in them. Now they're in an interesting situation because Brock Purdy is injured, and they don't know when he's going to be back, and so that muddies the waters a little bit, for sure. It definitely muddies the waters just a little bit. I saw somebody say, where was it at? I want to rebuttal this. Hall of Fame usually comes after winning Super Bowls, so not surprising that Super Bowl winners make the Hall of Fame. I mean, it does, but not necessarily. I don't think Stafford's a Hall of Famer. I don't think he's a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. You know, you can have guys have really good seasons or really good runs and go win you a Super Bowl. That's happened. I don't think Stafford's a Hall of Famer. I think, but you can also tell pretty early, like who is and who isn't, you know, but you have to put together a whole career. It's not just a couple Super Bowls. I think Eli Manning, this is me personally. I think Eli, if I'm doing the Hall of Fame, I'm not. I think Eli's going to get in for sure. But if I'm doing the Hall of Fame, I don't think Eli Manning's a Hall of Fame quarterback. That's me personally. I don't care that he won 2 Super Bowls and MVPs and whatever. I don't care. He was too incomplete the rest of the time for me, anyways, to put him in the Hall of Fame. Now he's going to make the Hall of Fame, and I put him under my checklist as a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback because he's going to make it. He's a Manning, but I wouldn't put him in the Hall of Fame. So I understand what you're saying. I think you don't have to win a Super Bowl to get in. We've seen that as well, but you win Super Bowls and you're bound to get in usually, especially if it's multiple Super Bowls. So, but these guys have complete careers too. It's not just like they had a good season or two and then just rallied off to the Super Bowl or rallied off to the Hall of Fame. That's not the way it works. You got to be able to, put it together. So, all right, Mike, we're going Mike, William, Jaden, Karma, and then Mr. Dane. And we're going to do all of this. We're going with the 5-minute timer just so that we can keep everybody's time down so everybody's not waiting forever. All right, Mike, it's on you,
Hey.
man. What's up?
Hey, Jesse. How's it going, man?
Good, man. How you been?
Awesome. Well, as awesome as I can be considering the Cabo group we got going on. That's just, that crap reminds me of, Little League Baseball where the the dad is a coach and his sons are all playing on the team, and some of the better players are not playing because these kids are on the team, and then they all go out to party afterwards, et cetera, et cetera. It's just disgusting, dude. You can't do that in NFL football as a head coach. And I don't know, it's ego, massive egos in all of those members that are on that Cabo group. I don't know. I don't think we ever go anywhere simply because of that. And we'll sit there and maybe if the only way I see anything happening for this team this year is if Kyle actually gives Brock Purdy's plays to Trey to begin the year. None of his rushing in through the tackles, none of this garbage that's going to kill Trey. He's got to let Trey play instead of playing the garbage plays he's given him. You can tell the difference between the plays that he gives to Trey and the plays he gave to Garoppolo and the plays he gave to Purdy. they're obviously so much more easy for somebody to do. I mean, Purdy, Purdy I thought was pretty good. I mean, as far as a quarterback is concerned, though in the last couple of games you saw him being a lot less on target, a lot more unable to find the receivers he wanted, etc., because he was really getting rushed. Unfortunate what happened in that division game. I think we would have probably won that game, but hey, what can you do? But there is no way in the world that the San Francisco 49ers are ever going to go to the Super Bowl and win with Kyle unless he rock solid on a quarterback and invites that quarterback to his little Cabo group. To me, that's the most disgusting thing he's ever done. And it happened twice now that I've seen. I don't know how many other times that's happened, but it's all those players. All those players are the ones that said when Trey got injured, well, we go back to Niner football now. Oh my God. Yeah. Just, I don't know. I hate Kyle Shanahan. He is a good offensive coordinator, but he should never, ever be a head coach making decisions for the team. No. Slap that guy back into the OC or let him sit at home and not do anything, and don't allow him to go to another team. That's what I would do if I was the ownership group until his contract's over.
Damn, that's back to back, Kyle.
I
Kyle hate coming from the callers. All right,
hater.
all right.
Kyle hater. And it makes
That's fair.
me
Listen,
it makes me want to do the same kind of job that you do because I can't stand him so bad that I want to see him fail. Simple as that.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. I think the Cabo thing is interesting because the way that I grew up in leadership was you don't do those types of things.
No.
But when I actually became a leader, and I'm just talking my line of business, right? So when I became a leader in my line of business, we were talking about a whole different generation. And what I found was, at least for me, this is, I'm not saying this translates well to football or what have you, but at least for me, what I found was some people on the team need that. They kind of need to know who you are as a person. They need to see you in a personal setting. They buy into you when they see you interact with your kids or your wife or your personal friends, that type of stuff. And so,
but there's a division where you have to separate your job from that friendship that you have. Friendship as a manager, as a coach, as a leader is not a bad thing as long as you know how to handle that. Kyle has no clue on how to do that. He can't put people like our fantastic wide receiver in the doghouse. There was no reason for that. And I'll be willing to bet if it ever comes out that was because he said bad things about Jimmy G.
Damn. All right. Listen, Mike, it's been a while since I've talked to you. You're always welcome. I don't agree with everything that you said, but I do appreciate your takes, and you are always welcome on this show, man. You've been a supporter since very, very early on, and I appreciate you, like always.
I'm always listening to you, dude. I love your shows wherever
Thanks,
you're
Mike.
at. All right,
appreciate you.
All right, bye.
Later. What's up, Fish and Chips? Yeah, I know. It was close. For people that don't know what he's talking about, people were asking about the old anybody. I don't know if anybody tunes into Chat Sports on YouTube, but they cover every team, and they had the old content creator for the 49ers, and he now runs his personal channel. Thomas Mott is his name, I think. He runs his personal channel. It's an Eagles channel. And I did verify that Chase Sr., who now runs the chat sports side for the 49ers, also runs the chat sports side for the Eagles. I don't know if he's a fan of either team. I don't know. You don't have to be a fan of a team with chat sports in order to run that team channel. You just apply. And if they like what you bring to the table, and it's a different style of content. It's more buttoned up, new style. I don't think you get to really fully be yourself. And some people are really good at it. It's like more news anchor style. But at any rate, you don't have to be a fan of a team to cover them. And so I had actually applied. This was when I had just started the YouTube channel here. So we're talking 2 years ago. I applied with Chat Sports to actually be their Bears content creator. And I was in the final 2. Everything happens for a reason. Glad I didn't make it. Fish and chips. So yeah, I'm with you, man. I am with you. Somebody asked about Tom Brady. I mean, we'll see. I live in Tampa, and I saw every Bucks game there was this year. I went to the Bucks Ravens game. I watched every Bucks game, and for a big chunk of the season, I was a big advocate for Brady, saying he still makes the same throws. He's still the same player. But once that team got healthy, you started to see the weaknesses he's starting to have. That man does not want to get hit. He doesn't want to get hit. And his dad came out and said it when he retired, that he was tired of getting hit. And you can see it in his game. The reason he took 0 sacks versus the 49ers and 0 sacks versus Dallas, 2 very good defenses and good pass rushes, throwing the ball 50 plus times a game, wasn't because he's Tom Brady and he's so smart and he's cerebral. He's just not willing to take a shot to give a shot. So, and I understand. I mean, dude's like 46, 45. You don't want to get hit by these men. Not anymore. It's past that point. So I don't want Tom Brady. I think we're past that. I don't think Tom Brady comes out of retirement. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. Maybe. I liked what actually Kruger brought up. He brought up if it's midseason and you have 0 quarterbacks, maybe that's a scenario I could see Tom Brady like, all right, I didn't have to go through any of the BS. You ain't got anybody else. I'll come save the day. That's the one scenario I could see it, but I don't think he's coming out of retirement other than that. What's up, Will? Mr. Bennett?
How you doing, Jesse? How you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm going to give my quick spiel for my 5 minutes. So I'm going to give you, and a lot of this may not be popular with the fan base, but I'm going to give it the real. All right. First off, I'm going to give you a compliment. Love seeing you with Kruger. I think it's a great combination. Love it. My next thing is I've been hearing a lot of people speak on Cal. And I guess the 3-strike rule is in effect because Cal has me feeling like we're the old Buffalo Bills. Like we get to the Super Bowl, but just can't seal the deal. So it seems like Cal and them are happy just to get to the NFC Championship. It's like we reduced. At first it was the Super Bowl, but now it's like they're happy just to get to the NFC Championship. You're going on trips and stuff like you won something. I always tell people, if you didn't win the Super Bowl, the year was a bust. Yeah. I don't care how many players, I don't care how many games straight you won. If you didn't win the big one, it was a bust. And it just amazed me how happy they are just getting to NFC. It's just like people talk about the Cowboys versus our Niners. Oh, the Cowboys, 2 years in a row they went up against the Niners and y'all just can't beat us. We've been to the NFC Championship 2 years in a row with the caliber teams that we've had and have not been able to win it. We went to the Super Bowl with a less talented team. So I'm just not, and it just amazed me because with Philly, Philly said, they said, well, what are you going to do with all the weapons the Niners have? They said, oh, well, we're just going to go after the one thing that we know that isn't a high caliber, the quarterback. We're just going to go after Purdy. And they did that. They ignored everything else but just to get to, and to see how Cal just didn't protect him, knowing that was their game plan, just kind of blew me. And I'm just like, dog, I'm not, come on. Like, come on. Like, what it's like Cal's like, you could tell Cal coached with the Redskins, which is now the Commanders. He just finds a way to blow a game. Just finds a way to blow a game. I'm like, okay, you got Chris. And to speak on the fact of Trey and Purdy, I understand a lot of people like Purdy, and I like Purdy. I think he has poise. I think he's going to have a great career, but he is not nothing special. Everything I seen him do, he played. It was the team around him. It was like, oh, he did this, he did that. Yes, but look at the weapons he had. Like Trey had Christian McCaffrey in the beginning of the season. Let him had Kittle and Debo and all of them. He didn't have none of that. And then the way you run him and play him, I had a talk with a manager at my agency. He's a big Ravens fan. He keeps bringing up that Ravens 49ers Super Bowl to every time I see him.
What a jerk.
And I'm trying to tell you, I give him a hard time. But the thing that's just so amazing about it is, how can I put it? It's the play, it's what Cal's doing with the team. It's like he's a really good offensive coordinator, but a head coach, he too much want to be their buddy. He too much want to be the friend. He's the type of manager, instead of be a manager for everybody, he's a manager for some of the team. And then he goes to his favorites on the team and say, hey, what do you think about the decision I made? What do you think I should do? And you can tell it's starting to leak out through the players, because your players are having way too much opinions on who should be the quarterback, what should the direction the team should go in. It's just, I'm like this. To me, we should have had at least, out of these past years, at least 3 Super Bowls since the hardball years. We should have had at least 3 of those. Things happen, but it makes no goddamn sense that we lost that game against the Rams, that Brock Purdy was unprotected in that game against Philly, when the offensive line has over 70 sacks. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, come on. And I'm telling you, I think for Kyle, it's all about his ego. It's all about him doing it. I think he doesn't want to. I tell people, the way you win championships is it's what that player do when things goes off script. Kyle doesn't want a person that thinks for themselves. And he wants it just to be about his game plan. You've seen that in that game where Trey, he threw that little short route to Debo, and Trey said something to him about it. It was like Kyle kind of really resented that. And Debo had to say something to Trey, like, calm down, yeah, I know. You know what I'm saying?
Are you talking about the Texans game? Like right before
right?
Like as the game was ending, when it didn't matter, they had already won. It was just kind of like the last throwaway play.
Yeah, what the hell was like? I could have scored on that, but it was like, and it just, and I don't think people are realizing. And the thing that kills me is how people are saying Kyle is this genius. What has Kyle done? Who wouldn't get the records or the wins that Kyle would get with a team that we have, with the talent that we have? Who wouldn't get those wins? But it's when you get into those playoff games where now you ain't playing little Rudy Poo teams. You're actually playing better teams. teams that have good offenses, have good defense, and have way better coach. It's not that our team is getting beat, Jesse. You know where we're getting beat at? In the coach's position. Because when you play those better teams, it's not about the players anymore. It's about the coaches. It's about the coaches. And we consistently get out coached. What happened with Kansas City and Philly? Philly got out coached.
Yeah, Kansas City outcoached them. No doubt about that. No doubt about that.
And
hey, brother. Hey, I I let you go a few over. I let you go a few over now. But I got to get to these other ones.
All right, Jesse. Keep up the good work, man.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
Peace.
Later. Ooh, Eric, I'm gonna get to you after I get to Karma here. He's been falling in and out, and so I want to get to him. But I see you shaking your head no, so I think you're gonna bring a different perspective than some of the last callers. So if you do, I think it'll be good conversation. So we're gonna go Karma, we're gonna go Eric, then we're gonna go to Jaden. Yeah, no QB, Yafi, no QB wants to get hit, but quarterbacks are willing to step up to get hit to deliver a ball downfield or what have you. He would dirt ball it and then like quickly turn, like just avoidance of any contact. And again, I understand it. This is not a knock on Tom Brady. Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback we have ever seen play the damn game of football. But it's time. He defied Father Time for so long. Way longer than anybody else. He's already proven the point. But there comes a time where you just can't do it anymore. And now is his time. It's his time. It just is. He's not. And I think the rebuttal to that is, well, a lot of people said that when he was leaving New England as well. They did. I wasn't one of them. I was not one of them. I watched that Tennessee Titan playoff game and said, this dude is the same player he's always been. Those receivers couldn't create any separation. That was not on him at all. I saw that the talent was still there. I saw that the style of play, everything was still intact. I'm not saying that this time around. And I was early on in the season. I thought a lot of it was because of injuries. And once they got healthy, they'd put it together and Tom would do Tom things. And he's not the same player anymore. He's just not. And he's a big contributor as to why they were getting blown out by Dallas. So, all right, Mr. Karma, we're coming to you, then Eric, then Jaden. What's up, man?
Hey, Jesse. Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Listen, I saw you like falling in and out. I'm like, I got to get to him before he just loses it.
No, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. I just want to touch on a couple things. The first one is it's just a little like nuanced detail about the NFC Championship game and when that play action pass where Purdy got injured. The thing that upset me, I mean, the Croft thing is, that's pretty questionable just by itself, but Kyle Shanahan is known as this, great schemer and game planner and the way he draws things up. And he has that style where the first 10 or however many plays are scripted. So that play action shot was in his script. And the thing that I don't understand is, when you do play action like that, you're trying to establish the run before you do a play action. Otherwise, what are you trying to fool the defense with? So it's just a little part of the frustration with that is like, it makes you question a little bit the genius. Like, man, you put that play, why did you sequence it that early in the game when you haven't established the run? They have nothing to honor. They were they were coming up, flying up the field. Run the ball down their throat and make them think about something before you try to do something like that. So that's the first thing I just wanted to, comment on. The other thing that upset me was this quote that came out from the Mike Silver about they would be pissed if Brock Purdy wasn't the starter. That doesn't come out by accident. And for them to put it on the record or go to a guy like Mike Silver who's going to report that, it makes me question the dynamics in that locker room. It's a team. You go behind. It doesn't matter if Josh Johnson is going to be our starter next year. He's the guy. You rally behind him. And what if the quote had been, hey, Ayuk's our number one receiver. Why isn't he getting 10 touches a game? So you just change the context and it sounds bad. So that upset me. And just that aspect too, there's an entitlement factor with the team that they think that, they should have a say in who the guy is, and because maybe he's making them look good, where they should be all making each other look good. And it doesn't matter who's in there. Like if Trey Lance is going to be in there, give him the floor and give him the opportunity to develop. This team carried Jimmy for years, and I love Jimmy Garoppolo, and he did great things for the 49ers. And, the things that he was good at, he was very good at. They have no excuse for saying we don't have the time to let Trey develop. That's bullshit. They can go in there, let Trey play and develop, because that defense is one of the best in the league. The run game is one of the best in the league. Get him in there, get him the reps, and let him play. So I don't like the excuse of they don't have time to let Trey develop when they've been doing the thing for Jimmy for years. So I just want to keep it brief. Those were my main takes, and that's awesome that you're letting people come in here and vent. So appreciate you, and thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely, man. You have a good one. It was a good call. Good, concise call. I don't think he's killing Kyle. I'm kind of more with him, where I'm not ready to to like riot and fire Kyle. I think Kyle does some things that are great. I think he does some things that are really, really good. I think that Kyle develops late round picks at a high level. I think he develops coaches at a high level. I think he's a fantastic play designer. And if he gets in the groove, can be a fantastic play caller. But I do believe that he struggles developing quarterbacks. And unfortunately for Kyle, the quarterback position is the most important position in football. And until you figure that one out, you're probably going to continue to struggle winning a Super Bowl. So that's just the reality of the situation. As far as the Brock Purdy play goes, I agree with Karma a little bit on this one. I don't necessarily think they have to establish the run, because teams know they want to run the ball. But there was a problem with what the 49ers did in this one. They had this same game plan 3 games in a row in the playoffs. You can only fool so many teams. You came out and you passed like crazy against Seattle. Then you did it again against Dallas. And then in the second half is when you started to go more towards the run and then be more balanced. You had the same game plan, or so it seemed, against Philly. The other thing that, I was able to pick up on it in short order watching the Philadelphia Eagles. So if I can pick up on it, I got to imagine somebody in that film room picked up on it as well. They don't bite on play action. They don't. They simply don't. They just pin their ears back and, hey, if we're wrong, you can gash us for 10, 15 yards running the ball. But if we're right, we're going to lay a licking on your quarterback. And that's the game plan. And that's what they did. That's what Hassan Reddick, his whole assignment, that's what he does. Just goes after the quarterback. Handoffs, play action, doesn't matter. He's going after the quarterback. So the way that you do slow that down is, yeah, you can establish the run. I think you throw right at him. You do the little pop shots, the screens right over him. Let him come at your quarterback with your quarterback staring right at him, knowing when he can protect himself. Just dump the ball over his head. Right? That's how you do it. Turn off these other monitors real quick. That's how you do it. You go right at him. There's no reason not to go right at him. Screen game right behind him. Run the ball at him. Wear him down. And then once you've established that, that's when you can start mixing in the play action, because now you've slowed him down. You get him to hesitate. You get him to think twice about things. And now you can probably hit those play actions. So that's the way I would have game planned it. Listen, I'm not a head coach. I'm not trying to claim that I'm smarter than Kyle Shanahan. I just felt like things could have been done a little bit differently, and they probably would have been a little bit more successful. That being said, I got Mr. Eric Dane on. What's up, Eric?
Hey, what's up, Jesse? How are you?
Doing good, man. How you been?
Good. So I want to start by saying thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it. I see you've been going almost an hour and a half so far, so that's awesome. Got to give you a lot of respect for that, especially in the off season. You know, giving all the 49ers fans a chance to interact. I know I probably fair to say I speak for the rest of the callers when I say we really appreciate the opportunity to interact and share our opinions about the team and, you know, the sport that we're so passionate about. So I just want to thank you for having the show tonight.
Hey, I want to say I didn't want to cut you off, but I wanted to say thank you for calling in and making this show what it is. Thank you for supporting the way that you always have. And I mean, this is it. We go as long as you guys keep wanting to call in. And this is like this is the easiest show to run every week for me. Just get to kick back and listen to your takes and rebuttal every once in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. And you guys, you all are the reason this channel exists. So if I can give one night back to allow you guys to vent and say your piece, have at it, man. Have at it.
Yeah. So about the quarterback situation, I don't know if you ever saw the TV show The Wire.
I didn't. I remember hearing about it.
Oh, well, first of all, for everyone listening, it's a great show. If you ever get a chance to check it out, you should. It's a really good show. It's about the drug trade in Baltimore. And
okay.
Quick spoiler alert, if anyone wants to watch it. At one point, this guy Marlowe takes over the drug trade, right? And he's talking to one of his lieutenants, right? And they're talking about like, oh, you know, now that we're on top, we got to deal with all this stuff, right? As the lieutenant says, you know, that sounds like one of those good problems, right? So I think, and you know me, I'm the optimist of the group. I think the quarterback situation, I think this is actually a good problem to have. I think I'm not looking at it like, oh, we don't have a quarterback. I'm kind of looking at it like we might have two quarterbacks and they're both pretty cheap. I mean, Brock Purdy specifically is making like less than $1 million a year. And even Trey Lance, number 3 pick in the draft, what's his salary going to be next season? Like $8 million or something like that?
Trey Lance, to closer to 10, I think.
But even so, when you're looking at a league where the top guys like Patrick Mahomes making over $40 million a year, Dak Prescott making $50 million. I mean, wasn't there like a cap hit of $75 million for Dak Prescott last year? We're talking.
I don't remember. I don't know. It was ridiculous. Whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is actually kind of a good problem to have. First of all, we're not committing that much money to the quarterback room. On a talented team like this, that's important. That allows you to pay guys like George Kittle, Trent Williams, Fred Warner, hopefully coming up soon, Nick Bosa. So first of all, from an economic standpoint,
Eric, you're frozen. Good news for you is you got 2 minutes left, and I got a 2-minute timer. Let me hit this one real quick. Twin says, Twin, I agree. And I said this very early in the process. He definitely was. And I don't necessarily blame that. I don't blame that particular injury on Kyle Shanahan. So I want to be clear about that. Brock could have stepped up in the pocket. It was clean enough. Andy had 3.47 seconds to throw the ball. That's a lifetime in the NFL. But you could tell that play action early in the game was Kyle Shanahan's bread and butter. And you can tell that because not only did he do it with Brock, but he did it right away with Josh Johnson, who also got obliterated by Hassan Reddick, who again wasn't biting on play action. So that's the issue that I have. It's not that he got Brock injured. I'm not pinning the injury on him, but I am saying that I think the game plan was flawed the whole time. And it may not have been enough. They might have gotten down 14-0 early and not able to come back because of that game plan. I think there was a flaw in the game plan. Not so much that the injury was his fault, but just that I think the game plan had some holes in it. That's me personally. Eric, I see you're back. I'll give you your 2 minutes in a second. Scotty Dippin, what's up, man? Says Kyle Shanahan will be the coach until the end of Brock Purdy's deal, assuming he comes back 100%. If he doesn't win a Super Bowl in that time, he better update his LinkedIn. Yeah, I mean, I get the feeling that Kyle Shanahan is going to be here. Somebody made the joke that he's Marvin Lewis. I I don't know if he's that, but I do get the feeling that he is going to be here for a while. Yeah, he'll be here for a while. So I see somebody wants to call in. I did take down the call in link. I'll throw it out one more time for anybody that wants to get in. Give you all a chance. Take a couple more and we'll finish it out. Super chat referencing the Wire series. Yeah, there you go. Eric, he's talking about you, man. He's talking about you. Paul, you specifically, man. There's the link for you. Okay, let me get you back in, Eric, and then we'll give you your 2 minutes here. All right, bud.
All right, yeah, I don't know what happened. I guess I just got disconnected.
It happens.
But all right, so I only got 2 minutes. I'll try to make this simple. I think between Brock Purdy and Trey Lance, we kind of have the best of both worlds, because whenever you draft a player, it's almost like buying a lottery ticket. You can't. It's not like you're going to the bank and withdrawing money. Like you're buying a lottery ticket, there's a chance the player is going to pan out, right? So every player that you draft has a ceiling and a floor. So I think between Trey Lance and Brock Purdy has established the floor where, at the bare minimum, we know that he can be a baseline quarterback. We know that he can be successful in the NFL. He can be productive in Kyle Shanahan's system. So, regardless of what happens with Trey Lance, we know at the very least we have that floor with Brock Purdy. But we also have that high ceiling with Trey Lance, where we know, I mean, my thing is this. Like, I like Brock Purdy. I like what he did. I don't want to disrespect Brock Purdy. I think he played very well. It showed that he was preparing throughout the year. He came in ready to go. He did great. But imagine if Brock Purdy was 6'4", 220 pounds, and a little bit faster. That's the potential that some of us see in Trey Lance. So I think that there's still the opportunity where he could reach that ceiling. So in my opinion, you kind of have to put him into a quarterback competition, but there has to be some consideration for the fact that, like, on their developmental curve, Brock Purdy is much closer to being fully developed than Trey Lance is. So there has to be some consideration. Like, I think if you put them into a quarterback competition in training camp and it's neck and neck, I think you got to give the edge to Trey Lance based on the potential of the upside. Now, if he comes in and he's there's a clear difference, then maybe you got to roll with Brock Purdy at that point. I'm not saying
that's fair.
I'm not writing off either of them at this point. I just think there has to be some consideration for what not only with the kind of players they are right now, but the potential for who they could develop into. So I think they got to keep an eye on that, and they got to keep that in consideration when they put them into a quarterback competition in training camp. I think if it's close, you kind of have to give the edge to Trey Lance based on the potentially upside and the things that he could add to the offense. Like I said, imagine what if he really does develop into a 6'4", 220-pound Brock Purdy. What if that's Trey Lance's future? You can't ignore that possibility based off. And Brock Purdy played great. I'm not knocking what he did. I think if he ends up being the starter, I'm good with that. I'm very optimistic about what he can do in this offense. I'm just not ready to write off Trey Lance. I think a lot of people are wanting to write off Trey Lance. I think those are the exact same people who didn't want them to draft Trey Lance in the first place. Those are the same people when Trey Lance didn't start in the first season. They said, oh, this guy's a bust. He can't even beat out Jimmy G. And then when he got injured, they said, oh, this guy's a bust. He's injury prone. There are some people, I don't know what the percentage is, 10%, 20%, whatever. There's some people who just never want Trey Lance on the team. They're looking for any excuse they can do to get rid of him. I don't see any reason why the front office would feel that way, though. I mean, they drafted this guy. They have to give him the benefit of the doubt. They have to consider the possibility he could develop into what they hoped he would be when they drafted him. So I mean, it would be a real shame if they drafted this guy and then he never really got a chance to start. Obviously, the first year they went with Jimmy G. You can debate whether that was the right idea or not. Second year, he got hurt. I mean, I don't want to see them waste the potential. If it turns out that he can't be what they were looking for, then that's fine. But we don't know that yet, and we're not going to know that until he really gets a chance to play. So I just hope he gets that opportunity. No offense to Brock Purdy. I don't think that he played poorly at all. I mean, the statistics show he was like a top 5 quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
And But part of that's not all on Brock Purdy though. He didn't come out slinging the ball around like Patrick Mahomes. Part of that is because he's throwing to Brandon Ayuk, he's throwing to George Kittle. He can dump it off to Christian McCaffrey. He's got Trent Williams protecting his blind side. He got Kyle Shanahan calling plays. Brock Purdy was successful in this offense. I think other players could also be successful quarterbacking this team, and I'm still optimistic that Trey Lance could develop into what we were hoping for. And, we were saying before they were even drafted, when Mahomes was blowing up and Josh Allen was blowing up, at the time, we always said, could you imagine if we had one of those guys in this offense? Well, that's the potential with Trey Lance and some of us seeing him. And I just hope that they get into an open competition and let the best man win. But there has to be a little bit of consideration for, not just necessarily who's going to be the better quarterback week 1, but who's going to be the better quarterback week 17? Who's going to be the better quarterback next year? Which quarterback is more likely to be your quarterback in 5-10 years? You got to give Trey a little bit of benefit of the doubt. He played 17 games in college. He started 4 games in the NFL. That's 21 starts above the high school level. What did all the players say about Brock Purdy when he was playing well? Oh, he's got a ton of experience from college. Well, I mean, is it impossible that Trey Lance could get that kind of experience too? Of course not. You put him on the field, he gets some experience. Now, does that mean that he's going to develop into Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes? Maybe not. But then again, with this offense, and not only the offense, but the defense too, I don't think we really need him to develop into an all-pro quarterback. We just need somebody who can limit the turnovers, find the open receiver, and then when Kyle's plays don't work, you can make something out of nothing. And Brock Purdy showed he was capable of that. He can move around the pocket a little bit. He can extend plays. I think Trey's capable of the same thing. So I know some people are a little down on the quarterback situation, want them to go out, maybe go after Tom Brady. I mean, I've heard every name from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. I think, with that's kind of ignoring the salary cap situation. If you bring in any quarterback like that, you're basically saying goodbye to Nick Bosa. If that's your opinion and that's the best way to build the team, okay, I don't want to lose Nick Bosa. So I'm comfortable with a cheap quarterback room, pay the stars around them to maximize their abilities, put Brock and Trey into a quarterback competition. I believe both of them could be effective starting quarterbacks, and whoever wins that quarterback competition, I think is going to give the team a very good chance to be successful. And as far as one last thing, because I know you got other people waiting, as far as any thoughts of, maybe we should get rid of Trey. No. Listen, I mean, come on, man. We were down to Josh Johnson at the end of the season. We need more than one quarterback. So I want to keep them both on the team as long as we can, because, God forbid if anything happens. I mean, it's a violent sport. More than half of the teams in the NFL last year ended up with a different starting quarterback than they started the season with. I forget what the number is. There was some ridiculous, a number like 70 something guys started games as a quarterback last year. Is ridiculous. So we can't just go into it with, let's get Brock Purdy, bring in like an Andy Dalton as a backup and we're good. No, you need depth at the quarterback position. So don't trade either one of them. Keep them both. Put them in a quarterback competition. If Brock Purdy is head and shoulders above Trey Lance, then he's earned the right to be the starter. If it's anything else, if it's close, I think you got to give the edge to Trey Lance based on the potential upside.
I think it's fair, Eric. I think it's fair. I'm going to pull you out. I think it's fair, but I don't think Purdy's going to be in a quote-unquote competition. I don't think he's going to be ready. I think that Trey's going to start. And this is where it gets weird, is you're not going to see the competition. I think the competition would benefit them both. But you're going to see a situation where Trey plays early and he either does great right away and he keeps his team, or he struggles the way that the 49ers always struggle to start a season and he never gets a shot again. And so I think that's crappy, but I think that's probably more likely the situation in front of us. Tommy says the champs are in the building, Dub Nation. That's all I'm going to say, man. I know that we just lost, but I'm still rocking my team. I'm always rocking my team. Come on, man. It's Dame time. You know what time it is. All right, Jaden, we're coming to you, man. We're coming to you. Thank you for being patient. What's up, Jaden?
What's up, Jesse? Can you hear me good?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, cool. So I was watching your show with Grant the other day, the 49ers before or after dark. You guys were talking about the Kyle has to get out of his comfort zone. And I think as a whole, the 49ers as a front office, as a team, as a fan base, they all need to get out of their comfort zone. Seriously. Because if you think about it, like everyone's just cool with, oh, we made it to the championship. We made like all this stuff, we have the best roster in the league. Like, no, you guys haven't won nothing. And that's why it ticks me off, bro. And I'm sorry. It's just like, I don't know, man. Like this fan base just rubs me the wrong way sometimes with like how they're so comfortable, like, and I feel like with Jimmy, like they're sold on Brock already. I don't really see Brock being able to elevate the offense like Trey will be able to, honestly. Because I think Trey's got all the tools. He's a humble kid, good guy. And I love Brock, don't get me wrong. Brock did his thing this year. But I just don't see him being able to elevate the offense. And that's what we're going to need if the Niners are going to win anything. The dink and dunk little, get it to the playmakers and play defense, it doesn't work. We tested it out the last 5 years. It doesn't work. We need a quarterback that can, throw it deep, make plays, all that stuff. And, yeah, that stuff just kind of – I wanted to put that out there because it makes me mad seeing all of, like, the fans, writing off Trey already. He hasn't even gotten a chance, but they're sold on Purdy when there's been, like so many quarterbacks like Purdy that have come into the league and started off well, and then the league catches up, they figure him out, and then he's just average. Like, same thing with Jimmy. It's just, I just had to get that off my chest because the fan base, I'm always like doing in comments, texting people and stuff. I had to, say it.
I feel it, man. And I think, what I think it is, Jaden? I think, and this comes down to faith as well, which it's interesting because 49er fans are called the faithful, right?
Yeah.
However, with faith, you have to be able to believe in something that you haven't yet seen necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think it's very easy for people to see Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy come out and win these games and do what they're supposed to do, and it looks good for a little while. And I think people see that and they're like, okay, this is good. Like, we're winning games. What more do you want? They're putting up decent numbers. What more do you want? This is our guy. Versus trying to peel the onion back just a little bit and say, hold on a second. We got this kid here who checks all the boxes.
Yeah.
Checks all the boxes mentally. Checks all the boxes physically. The only box he doesn't check is playing time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, just maybe, we might want to give this kid a season and make sure we're not missing out on anything. And that's where I'm at. I do believe that Trey Lance is going to be a very good quarterback in this league. However, I'm not so stubborn to the fact that it is 100% full certainty Trey Lance will be that dude. I think he will be, but there is a possibility he's not. But I've got to see it. I just want to see it with these weapons and this team and everything all said and done. Brock Purdy, a lot of people have seen their 7 games, 9 games, what have you, and they think this guy he's it. I mean, buck stops here. We're done. Franchise quarterback, case closed. How after 9 games do you make such a bold statement like that? And after 4 games of Trey Lance, you make such a bold statement saying this guy's a bust. How can you speak that much with that much certainty and act as if that is a factual statement? Neither one of those are factual statements. They're strong opinions, but they are not facts. And that's where I'm at with it. So I understand what you're saying.
And I think everyone just lacks patience. I'm from Jersey, so there's a lot of Philly fans around me. And, they had, after their Super Bowl, they had rough couple years. They drafted Hurts. Everyone was like, oh, I don't know if Hurts is the answer. But they were patient, and now look at them. They're in one of the best spots in the whole NFL. They just went to the Super Bowl. They got a young quarterback, young team, bunch of talent because they were just patient and, bought into their guy. I feel like the Niners can never buy into. Well, I guess they're bought into Brock, but
Yeah,
I
but
don't.
are they? Because the front office hasn't come out and said that's our starter, he's our future.
That's
You know
true.
what, Trey, you're the backup. That's what Twin was saying. It's like the fans are split. Sounds like the players are split. I think the front office is a bit split. Hell, people on the coaching staff might have differences of opinion. But Kyle has to come out and say, this is my guy. Whoever it is. I want it to be Trey. Some people want it to be Brock. That's fine. Choose one. Ride with them.
I know.
Choose one and ride with them.
That's all it needs to be. And that's what every other team does. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's crazy. But I appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate you for supporting, and I appreciate you for being patient, man. You waited a while. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, man. Later. Jed. So, yes, the article was about Brock, but then also don't put in a blurb, a one-sentence blurb that says Trey did okay, but not as good as Brock. Why add that in an article about Brock? That's where the issue came in. He made it seem as if Trey Lance was average on this cognitive test, and Brock was just, oh my gosh, so good. When the reality is they both scored in the elite range. And we're talking about a couple percentage points difference. So that's where the issue lies, man. And I know you didn't read it. You're just asking the question. That's fair. But for anybody who has that same thought, or maybe even did read it, that's where the issue comes in, man. So, all right, Paul, we're coming to you, and then Carlos. What's up,
Thank
Paul?
you. What's going on, man? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course, man. You said you wanted to come on. I dropped the link for you. You're good.
Yeah, because I don't know where to start.
Wherever you want, man. But you can go a million different directions at this point.
One of your callers said what I've been saying when I see you and Grant on, when I type in the message. I've been saying Kyle has called different plays for the different quarterbacks. Him, Jimmy, and Brock, they get a different offense and play call selection than Trey got. Trey's going to be the starter. He's going to surprise people. But with Trey in the offense, now do we get to see Danny Gray? Because noodle arm quarterbacks like Garoppolo can't throw. Cannot hit him deep.
Yo, that's the first time I've heard that, and you said it so smoothly, like that's the actual name. That is wild. All right, go ahead.
I've been saying it this whole season. I'm spoiled because I grew up a 49er fan in the 80s, so I got to see people like Joe Montana, Steve Young, Sonny Bono. You know, even those guys. Jimmy is like Jim Junkenmiller. He don't got it. He just don't got it. And 49er fans are so in love with this guy, but he's been our downfall with the inept interceptions at inept times. The offense is relegated to 10 to 15 yards inside the hash because he's not going to throw it outside. Kyle needs to go get his dad's old playbook, put some West Coast stuff in to help his quarterbacks. Because that's what Montana was so good, because he could hit Rodgers coming out on the flat. He could hit Wendell Tyler. You know, they had running backs who can catch, block, and run. I'm just not seeing it with Kyle. He has to support Lance, because that's what we're going to be going forward with. Lance is going to beat Brock out because Brock, he beat him. He beat him out to be the starter. That's why he was the starter. But then Kyle starts calling these BS plays, making them look bad. I would say get rid of Kyle, bring in Lance's college coach, and let's rock with a new offensive style and system and scheme that's going to fit Lance better so he can be successful. If he was winning championships up there in North Dakota, where he was at, North Dakota, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He can do the same thing here in Frisco.
You know what's crazy, Paul, is if you look at the offense he ran in college, it basically was Kyle's. It was Kyle's offense. And when I interviewed his not only his personal quarterback coach, but also his quarterback coach at NDSU, they both said that they were so excited for Trey to come to San Francisco because it was going to be a seamless transition for him. The offense is almost identical. A lot of the same concepts. He's going to fit right in. And then they turned him into RG3. Then they made him play out of the pistol. They completely scrapped their own offense that he ran in college, by the way, and scrapped it to turn him into something that he wasn't. That's what blows my mind. That's what I don't understand.
And then running him up the middle like he's Cam Newton or Jamarcus Russell today.
Yeah.
He's not that big of a quarterback to be giving him that kind of, it just frustrates me when I see the offense sputtering because the defense was built like the 84 Niners this year. We could have been, they were that good, but the offense was lacking. And that's all on Kyle.
Man, y'all are on Kyle tonight, on his neck. It's funny because I didn't even like label the show Kyle this or nothing. He's not even the thumbnail, but you guys are all, man. Hey, have at it.
It's time for him to get off his smug high horse and accept some reality and some responsibility. You got your starter crushed. You could have got Kaepernick, who has playoff and Super Bowl experience, but no, you go get Josh, no playoff Johnson. Not to down Josh, he's been in the league a long time, but I'd rather roll with somebody who's been in that situation and throw him in the heat of fire. So what? It's Kaepernick. He got wheels. That boy gonna run. If it play breaks down, he's gonna giddy up. And he could hit Danny Gray. So there's a weapon we could use in the NFC Championship game.
I agree.
Oh my God.
And he's if you watch him, Paul, when he runs on a designed run versus a pass play where he decides to scramble, he does not look comfortable on the designed runs. However, when he's dropping back to pass and he takes off, he looks it's seamless, it's comfortable, it's who he is. He's a scrambler, he's not a runner. They're very different.
Exactly. But I just say that the curse of Kaepernick is gonna haunt the Niners until they do right by my brother.
You're not the first person I've heard say that, and it is very Chicago Cubs-esque. I'll say that.
Don't let us go 80-something years, y'all. Make it right. And have a good night.
I feel it. Hey, great call, Paul, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad I let you through, man.
Thank you.
All right, man. We'll talk soon. Later.
God bless.
Yeah. He did say Sonny Bono. However, I'm not going to correct him because he also called Jimmy Garoppolo Garappa can't throw. And he said it so seamlessly. And he said that a million times over. I would have tripped up on my words. That was good. That one had me. That one had me pretty dead. So, all right, Carlos, we're coming to you, man. We're coming to you. You have any interesting nicknames for Jimmy Garoppolo for us?
No, not.
I don't know. I'm not going to put you on the spot. If you don't have one, that's fine. I just that one caught me off guard, Carlos. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty funny.
It was good. It was quick. It was witty. I guess I wanted to come in here and kind of be a positive voice and a voice of reason.
Do it, man.
Kind of paint the picture of. Look at the chaos of the coaching carousel right now in the offseason. Like all of you guys saying, get rid of Kyle, get rid of this. It's like, do you not remember Chip Kelly, Chip 3-and-out Kelly, Chip like completely leave our defense in the game for 70% of the time? Like it was awful. And Tim Tom, it was just like appreciate what you have because the Andy Reids of the world and the Bill Belichick's of the world are rare gems. And everybody who's ever had an encounter with Kyle or his dad all say the same thing. These guys are football geniuses. And I don't know if you ever worked with special needs kids, but when they're really good at something, they're sometimes not so great at other things. So like Kyle is a football genius. Everybody says that. Anybody that you've ever heard who even used to play for him, who have no skin in the game, who are retired, probably have a podcast, they'd be like, that guy's something else. That guy's different. You don't get rid of different. You don't get rid of unique. So just chill on the get rid of Kyle. How about help Kyle? How about surround him with the more Brian Greaseys of the world? Look how he's surrounding himself. Like he is doing what he can and understanding his weaknesses. And you have to see the team that John and Kyle have like built here. Everybody that's ever come, like I listened to McCaffrey's podcast, and I want to paint this picture for the fan base and everybody out there. It's like, yo, we're all hurting. That NFC Championship game sucked. And it's almost like, like the end of Sopranos, you're like, wait, is that how it ended? Like it just went black? That's what happened to our season.
Yeah.
Like it just went black. We're like, what happened? What am I watching? Did our fourth string quarterback just got like, this is done. So we're all hurting and we're all looking for something. And I think we're like digging into the narrative that isn't there. The narrative to me is quite simple. The guys going to Cabo, let them do what they want to do, man. Let these players cope the way they want to cope, because I promise you, once they're done drinking margaritas and are back home, the sinking feeling that season was stolen from them isn't going to go away, and it's going to like add fuel to the fire, and they're hungry and ready to go, and they have most of their team coming back. And here's the thing. Every time we have an opportunity for a rookie that was behind a guy that we lost, somebody always steps up and has an amazing year. Talanoa Hufanga. Remember how like even Madden had Ambry Thomas as our guy, and no, it wasn't. It was Lenore. Lenore was our guy. So every single time we're worried about some vet that's leaving the team, John and Kyle figured it out. And what I want to look for in this draft and why we should be optimistic is, yeah, we don't have a pick till the hundreds or the late 90s, but I think when you have picks back to back like that, they're easy fodder for trades. They can easily go back into the second. I think we need to focus on the depth. We need to take a look at our roster and be like, who's old? Who needs a backup? Who can learn from this old guy? And that's what we need to be focusing on. We have a solid team. And this whole QB drama between Trey and Brock, like, let's just be real. This was supposed to be Trey's season. It got stolen from him. Thank God we had Jimmy as an option. Jimmy took us as far as he could, gets hurt, and then we struck gold twice with Brock Purdy, and he's surprising everybody. So I just think, like, be optimistic that we have a cheap, eager QB room, and hopefully they surround those two guys with a vet. But like, just have faith in this organization and what they've built here. Everybody that has ever orbited around the Niners have been like, it's different there. It's not like other organizations. And there's a reason we've been to the NFC Championship three times out of the last 4 years. And a super, like, look at the dumpster fire that is the rest of the NFC. Forget the NFL, just the NFC. It's a dumpster fire. It's us and the Eagles. And then Dallas, who's also on the verge of becoming a dumpster fire. So be happy with our situation. Focus on the AFC. We have to beat we have to be better than the Chiefs, Bengals, and Bills. That's who we should be focusing on. And know that the Eagles and Dallas are going to get in the way. And I wouldn't sleep on the Lions. But I just wanted to be a voice of reason, because everyone's kind of venting and being pissed off. And it's just like, dude, we have a good situation. We literally got sopranoed, and the game where it all mattered, it just went away. And if you follow the Eagles season, that was the first hard game they ever played. The second hard game they ever played was the Super Bowl, and they lost. They weren't that good. We could have beat them, and we would have had a rematch with the Chiefs. And I don't know if we would have beat the Chiefs, but I would have wanted to see that game.
Yeah, listen, I would have wanted to see that game too. Do you think, and let me say this, it's hard to call in when everybody else has been on the other side. So kudos to you for having a complete opposite take. I'm in between. Like the group that was so mad at Kyle for 4 or 5 calls in a row or what have you, and then you are like, hey, everything's great, it could be worse. Like I'm kind of like in between it all. So I see both sides of it. What do you think Kyle needs to improve on, though? I gotta imagine that there's something that you would say, hey, if I could nitpick a little bit, this is the one thing I want Kyle to improve on. What would that be?
Macro awareness of what's going on.
Okay, I think that's a good one.
You know, as a leader, sometimes it's hard to delegate, and I think it's especially hard for Kyle to delegate things on offense. And I think he's done an excellent job. Him and John have done an excellent job of taking care of the other side of the equation, which is defense. And they've improved on special teams, but he's so laser focused on all aspects of the offense. And when you hear players talk about the amount that he knows about the wide receiver, like all of these positions, and then we all criticize, like, oh, he just doesn't get quarterback. I think he gets quarterback very well. And he knows, you mentioned it here, he has different plays for Trey, different plays for Brock, and similar plays for Brock and Jimmy. But that's because he understands their talent. He understands what they're capable of. And I just think that he lost a big chunk of his, I guess, like support system in Mike Butiano. You don't be with somebody for that long and not get used to an environment where you guys are like bouncing ideas off each other and kind of meshing, right? Like, I think losing him and so he's like, all right, I lost somebody that I've been with for the last, 10 years. Let me surround myself with some veteran talent that I can trust, right? Like, he's got former head coaches like fill his staff. Who else in the NFL can say that? Former head coaches that got kind of raw deals on shitty teams with bad organizations are now like primed to be head coaches again. So they come here, you know, be part of this organization, and then all eyes are on them. So I think what he needs is another Greasy, but I would say like that is more in tune to be like his assistant. Like, you need to do head coach duties. Let me focus on the offense and help you out. I understand you want to call the plays and you have this vision, but you're letting things slip through the cracks, and you need a more macro vision of this organization. You're the head coach. John sees, he still calls it your organization. He's the general manager, and he's still like whatever Kyle wants.
Yeah. And that's true. I mean, Kyle did hire John. I mean, that's the way that went. It wasn't the other way around. It was who fit with Kyle. Kyle was getting that job. I think that's fair. I think that's totally fair. And the reason that I asked you that question is I think when people disagree with you, they're going to hear you just praise and think that that's your only opinion on things. And so I like to give you a shot to say, hey, you know, if I can improve something, this is what it would be. And just so that people can understand that, you know, you can have a level-headed in-between take. It's not all roses and rainbows. It's not all bad either. It's also not all bad. There's some good and bad that we can talk. So I thought that was a very reasonable, well thought out take of yours. I do.
Thank you. But I mean, I can't say like a couple things negative about him, and I'll let you get to the next caller. But I mean, the one thing that he hasn't really improved that much on, and he should really be improving on, is he's got this stable of running backs. And for a running guru coach, like, it makes me wince sometimes when I'm like, why we're up 20? Why is McCaffrey in the game right now?
Dude.
Like, why is he in the game right now? Why are we dumping it to like all of our playmakers? It's the fourth. There's no way in hell they're going to win. Get them off the field. Get all of our stars off the field. This team is like has a virus of injuries. Don't play, like, don't risk it. So there's that. Like, just the awareness of like, how much are you giving it to McCaffrey? Give it to Mason. Give it to all these other guys that are just like, who cares? You're running up the gut. 9 out of 10 times you're like, thank God that block came through and that hole opened up. But other times it's like nothing happened. So you're going to let the weight of our offensive linemen and their defensive linemen fall on our top running backs. Like, that's just dumb. So there's that about Kyle. Like, you need to adjust and understand the stable of this running back committee that you constantly have on our team, which is great, which is how our running game still takes us so deep in the playoffs. But the other thing that he needs to like chalk up, in my opinion, is like these not trick plays, but like we don't go deep enough. So there's no tape on us going deep. So give them some of that tape so that they have to open up. And to me, if they start covering some of those deep passes, Danny Gray, who be it, IU can go deep too. Let's not forget that.
I agree.
But once they start biting on that, the middle of the field opens up, and that's where we're the best. The middle of the field, the the 12 to 15 yard kind of buffer. Like that's where we make real plays. And if you don't take people deep and they don't start taking people deep and the safeties start cheating back, you're not going to get that middle of the field. And that's where we're successful. Running it to open up those like 12 to 15 yard plays. We're not asking for 40-yard bombs here, but it's just like that's why we're good. And that's how we get yards after catch is that open field, let him run in stride 10 to 15 yards away from the line of scrimmage. Like that's where we're really good. And I just don't think that he mixes it up enough, at least on the passing game. So maybe he should bring in a vet passing coordinator, right? Like help him out, lean into where you know you're weak. And yeah, I mean, other than that, like things could be worse. That's all I can say is that things could be worse.
They could.
I mean, we could be Lions fans. We could be like things could be way worse.
I agree, Carlos. I agree. I think that was a level-headed, well thought out take. I don't fully agree with everything you said, but I think you at least told your points very well, very articulate. Great call, man. You can call in anytime.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, man. God, I gotta say, for early March, when football hasn't been around for a month, the season's been over for a while. This is supposed to be the dead period. We got up in like the 220s of people watching. We had, I mean, I don't know, that arguably is the best call-in show we've had. Top to bottom, I mean, starting out with Marco, going to my man Chris, and then every single caller brought it, man. Every single caller. That was good. That was a good show. And not everybody agreed, but that was great. Thank everybody that called in. You all crushed it. Every single one of you. And I got a little lazy with the timer because I was feeling it, man. I was feeling it. With a lot of you guys, all of you guys. I think you all did great. Twin, I do want to address this real quick. You said we can have a 2003 Buck situation with Gruden. I find that interesting because I did talk about this recently, but I heard a Tony Dungy interview, and this was like 2 weeks ago. And he was asked about why he was taken out of Tampa. Like, why was he ran out of town? And it was because they had a philosophy difference. He wanted to build a long-term contender. And his philosophy was, if we contend long enough, we'll eventually break through. But we got to be contenders every year. And he did. I mean, he built that thing to do just that. The Glazers, the Bucks owners, they wanted to win right now. So what did they do? They had two coaches in mind, Gruden, and I forget who the other one was. Obviously, we know the story. They brought in Gruden. They won a Super Bowl. They basically had a couple-year window, and it fell apart on them. But much like the Rams, much like what they did in 2003, that was right there. And I think the Niners are right on that cusp. And it'll be interesting to see if the 49ers take an all-in approach this offseason. They can do that in multiple different ways. They can do that through the quarterback position and go in and get an Aaron Rodgers type of guy. They can restructure a few contracts that we don't necessarily agree with and go crazy in free agency. There's a few things they can do. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see what they do. I think this offseason is pivotal. I think this offseason, because to me, I'm looking at some of these players that are aging. I think this is a 2-year window. Now, you can retool on the fly. If you get your quarterback, you can retool on the fly, a lot like how Kansas City has. But for a team that doesn't have that portion figured out yet, this is a 2-year deal here where these veterans are going to age past the point of it's too late for them. So they got to figure this out, and they got to figure it out quick. So what do? I think this offseason is huge. I think it's huge for the quarterback position, potentially the future of the quarterback position, whether it's Trey, whether it's Brock, whether it's neither. At the end of the season, we're going to know if it's Trey, if it's Brock, or it's neither. That we will know. So I think for that reason, this, out of all the seasons in the Shanahan Lynch era, this season, in my opinion, is the most important season out of all of them, because there's so much they have to figure out, and they have to figure it out in one season. They got to figure it out in just one season, because they've pushed off the Trey Lance project for far too long. That's about to come to a head. You've got this other young kid in Brock Purdy. He's injured. How long is he going to be out? Is he the guy? He played really well. Jimmy's finally moving on. So they're going to figure out the quarterback position one way or another. They have to this season. And do they take an all-in approach one way or another, whether that's bringing in another quarterback, spending big in free agency at other positions? I don't know. But I think that this window is starting to shrink a little bit. And they got to figure this out. And Seattle's coming, by the way. Seattle's there. They're getting close. They're either right there this year after these multiple first-round picks and that great draft class last year developing, or they're 1 year away from being 1 year away. And the 49ers are possibly going this way, especially if they don't get a quarterback. Seattle's coming this way. They got to figure this out, and they got to figure it out quick. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Hell of a call-in show. If you are not already, I don't normally say, hey, go subscribe. I don't do that a lot, but I have been lately because we're this close to 10K, man. And 10K to me means so much, because only 1.6% of all content creators across YouTube reach that 10K mark. And I just think that would be a really, really cool thing to reach, especially after losing the original channel, and just knowing that support from all of you is there. I know we're going to get there either way, but I would have never, ever, ever thought when this thing started that 10K would have happened and happened this quickly. So help me get there. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate the love and the support. If you're not subscribed to the other channel, the second channel, Last Second Sports 2, and you want all NFL content, not just 49ers content, I drop it there. A little bit different format, but I drop it there, and I'll have a video, ironically enough, on the Chicago Bears coming up this weekend. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate the love.